Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to go over the question that everyone's talking about: is there going to be a real estate market crash here in Phoenix, Arizona? Now, I want to specifically talk about Phoenix because one, I live here; two, this is the market I keep my eye on; and three, every city was affected differently. I know cities like Tampa, Orlando, Phoenix, and LA, these prices skyrocketed within the last couple of years. However, some cities didn't have the same situations. For example, in El Paso, their prices are still looking at about 250, maybe they're hitting 300, which means prices out there are still pretty cheap and affordable. So if you're looking to move, El Paso might be a place to be. But for today, let's look at Phoenix. Now, what is a market crash? A market crash is a dramatic price drop in a certain amount of time. Now, I couldn't find any set definition that said it had to be within 6 months, a year, or giving any specific time frame or any amount of price drop. But if you know one, let me know down in the comments below. But for today, that's just the basic simple definition we're using for a market crash. Now, the market crash in 2008 was different, and it happened for really two reasons. One, adjustable rate mortgages were on the rise, and two, people who were allowed to buy homes really couldn't afford them, and it rose the foreclosure rate, and that kind of is what collapsed everything. But this time around, it's a little bit different. This time prices rose really because of COVID. People weren't buying, people were scared, people thought it was, this crazy disease that was going to take us all out. So people kind of stayed in homes and said, I'm not spending money. Now, the federal government was kind of scared of this because saying it's going to affect our economy, it's going to go bad. So what they did is they dropped rates so that way people would be incentivized to be like, hey, it's cheap to buy a home right now, let's go after it. And at a certain point, rates were so low that people said, I'm going to buy no matter what. And it rose prices, people got into bidding wars, and things got out of hand. Now, if you ask me today at where we're at and everything that's going on, if you ask me if there's going to be a market crash, like I said before, I think it's inevitable, and really there's three key factors, and we're going to look at them today. One is going to be interest rates. Two is going to be demand, and three is going to be the economy. So let's take a look. Now, we all know interest rates are high right now. How high, you may ask? This high. I'm just kidding. This high. That's right. Interest rates are getting pretty close to 7%, which we haven't seen rates this high in years. I believe back in 2008, rates were at about 6.5. So them being pretty close or already above that, it's kind of scary to see. Now, the bad thing about this is that the federal government already said they want to keep raising rates. Inflation is their number one issue right now at about 8.5 inflation rates. They're willing to do anything to bring that down. The Fed already said that in their next meeting, they're more than likely ready to raise rates again. Now, we don't know if it's going to be the average 7.5 that they've been doing the last two times, or if they're going to lower it, go higher. We don't know, but they know that they're going to increase them, and that's kind of the scary part, because if they're already at 7 and they're going to increase, it's going to get worse for buyers. Now, every time rates rise, they take a little bit more buying power from your everyday person, which is a scary thing to think about. So let's take a look at some actual numbers, and so you can kind of get something in your mind. Now, let's take a look here, guys, and kind of see how things have changed. Now, I'll put a link down in the description below so you guys can kind of use this website here. It's great to kind of get an example and get a visual of exactly how much you're spending and where all your money's going to. So definitely use it. But let's take a look here. So one of my clients here back about a year ago, I helped him get a new build. He bought it for around $300,000, right? And I'm just going to try to get estimates because, I don't want to look at exactly what everything costs. But here we go. He put a 5% down payment, which means his loan amount was for $285. Not bad. So interest rate back then was at a 3.5. 30-year mortgage is good. Home insurance was about $1,200. Taxes, I believe, was about $1,300, and $600 for yearly HOAs. It sounds about right. So here we go. His monthly payment came out to be about $1,500, which pretty good monthly payment, especially for today's rate. But really what I want to look at here is the details, because if you were to stay in this house for 30 years, let's say you never move, you made your monthly payments on time, nothing changed, for you to pay off that $285,000 loan, you would be paying an additional $175,000. So total cost for the mortgage, you're paying $460, which it's not bad, honestly. I know it's a lot of money in interest, but it's not bad. It makes sense because you're paying half, almost, what is it? Almost half, or a little bit less, or a little bit more than half of the loan amount. Now, things have changed now, because if you're looking at the same situation or the same house right now, it's going for about $400,000, right? And interest rate is a lot higher, 7.12. So that $1,500 monthly payment is now $28. So it went about $1,300 up. Now, the biggest hike here is, again, if you were to stay in that house for 30 years and pay it off, now you're paying an additional $541,000, which means you're paying almost twice the mortgage amount or twice your loan to pay off the loan, which is astronomical. It went from like four something of total mortgage cost to like 392. I mean, that's crazy. That's pushing a lot of buyers out of the market and making it unsustainable for them to actually go and buy a home. So that means with interest rates keeping to go up and, you know, the Federal Reserve saying we're going to keep raising rates to bring down inflation, prices have to come down at some point. How much do they have to come down to offset that interest rate? Like I said, I feel like at this point it's going to be a heck of a decrease. I'm thinking about 20 to 30%. But now, let's take a look at demand. Now, let's take a look at our second indicator, which is supply. Supply has been going up for the last couple of months, which is great news because last year we were at about 0.5 months of supply, which means that if people stopped listing their properties and people kept buying, there would only be about half a month's worth of inventory, which is horrible. Right now, we're averaging about 3.5, which is a lot better. However, the scary part is that we're heading into our slow season, which means holidays are coming up and people do not like to buy around that time because they're spending money on Christmas gifts. That's what everyone does around this time of year. So with people spending their money somewhere else, people that are listing their homes are going to get kind of scared because now, you know, there's 3 houses competing in the same area. They're going to have to do something to, you know, make their house more intriguing. And what's the first thing that most people think about is lowering the price, which at some point it's going to be the race to the bottom, which is, you know, what we want as buyers. Now, the only good underlining that I see in this whole situation for supply is that while people don't like to buy, people also don't like to sell. And people don't like to sell. Why? Because it's Christmas. You know, you don't want to be moving houses during the holidays. You want to be at home spending time with your loved ones. However, right now, we are still in a shortage of supply. There's still not enough homes in the market. Even though people are slowing down in buying, we still need more homes. So we're still kind of hitting that equilibrium right now. And either one of them is going to have to give. Either there's still going to be an influx of people coming in and prices are going to do okay, or prices are not going to be okay because there's no one out there to buy that can afford them, which I think is the more likely to happen. Now, the last indicator is the economy. Right now, things are not looking so good. Inflation is the number one problem that everyone's talking about. And for a good reason, because right now, living is expensive. Gas is hitting close to $5 and it's not looking to slow down because I know OPEC just said they're going to release less oil, which is horrible for us. And then 2, stocks are down. The Dow Jones is down completely. I believe it just hit about 29,000 points, which at the height when, you know, we were COVID and everything was cheap, I believe it was like at 36. So everything's going down right now for the economy. With interest rates, Powell did say that, you know, they're looking to lose about 1.2 million jobs. And they're okay with that right now because they just want to bring inflation down. That's their number one priority. Now, the economy itself is definitely correlated with the housing market. If one goes down, the other one has to come down with it. And that's where prices get affected. And this is the situation we're in now because if people lose jobs, they can't afford to pay for stuff. They can't afford that extra leisure. Companies make less. They have to lay off more people, and the ball just gets rolling from there. And it brings home prices down with it. Unfortunately, that is what we saw back in 2008, where thousands or millions of people lost their jobs, and you know they couldn't afford to pay their houses, foreclosed on, went back into the market, and it crashed everything. Now, right now for foreclosures, they are increasing, which, you know, is a scary thing to see. Now, they're still not as high as they used to be back in 08, which is a good thing, but they are definitely increasing right now. I think we averaged at about 3,500 foreclosed homes within the first 6 months of the year, which last year I believe was at about 1,200. So we almost tripled that, which is scary to see. However, the one good thing right now is that a lot of people bought these expensive homes with such low interest rates. People bought homes with interest rates at like 3, 2.8, you know, 3.5, that right now those people, I honestly wouldn't recommend to get out of that house because you're at such a good monthly payment that while things get expensive, you still might be in an okay situation. Now, with interest rates on the rise, supply on the rise, and the economy kind of heading for a tumble, I think it's for sure thing to say that we are heading for a housing market crash. Now, again, a crash sounds horrible, and we don't know what that crash is going to look like. We don't know if prices are going to drop 20%, 30%, 40%, where they're going. In my own personal opinion, like I've always said, I think it's going to be about 25 now, maybe 30. But I definitely don't think that prices are going to hit back to $200,000 for a home as they were back in 2019. However, if you are a person looking to buy a home, I would say wait out these next couple of months left of 2022 because things are going to be very kind of light. Like I said, there's not a lot of demand. There's not a lot of people that usually do business within the next 3 months. So it's going to be slow. Wait for the new year to start. I feel like that's when we're going to kind of start seeing the acceleration of either the downfall of the housing market in Phoenix or the stabilization. So wait for those months. Now, if we go into 2023 and you see prices are starting to come down, we might be seeing the best time to buy come up. Because in 2008, it showed us that when prices crashed, people that had enough money in the bank to kind of buy a home and get into that mortgage bought an incredible investment. Prices were at their all-time low, and as always, real estate goes up in the long term. So if prices do drop in these next upcoming months and they start hitting 250, 260, 270, wait it out, save up your money right now, get into a good position with your credit and everything, and then be ready, because if that time comes, it might be one of the best times to buy at that point. Even with a high interest rate, you can always refinance. It's better to buy at a low price point, even with a high interest rate. So definitely be ready for that time. But as always, guys, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I would love to hear from some of you guys that don't think the market's crashing. I love hearing different viewpoints. So let me know down in the comments below. But as always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.